I was eight months pregnant when my brother Kyle kicked me so hard in the stomach that I thought I was going to lose my baby. The pain exploded through my abdomen like a bomb going off, stealing the air from my lungs. I collapsed onto the hardwood floor of our suburban home, gasping for breath, my hands instinctively wrapping around my swollen belly to protect the life inside me. Above me, my mother Brenda stood with an empty wine glass in her hand, red droplets still dripping from my face, where she had thrown the contents at me moments before. The Merlot mixed with my tears, creating pink streaks down my cheeks that looked disturbingly like diluted blood. Kyle loomed over me, his bloodshot eyes wild with desperation and whatever stimulant was coursing through his veins that night. In his right hand, he clutched my smartphone, the one lifeline to the outside world. Before I could even think to call for help, he smashed it against the corner of the dining table. The screen shattered into a spiderweb of cracks, then went dark. My mother smiled, that cold, calculating smile I had seen 1,000 times before, and delivered the words that sent ice through my veins. "You think you can escape Rachel? In this country, I am your mother. I can call 911 right now and tell them you are mentally unstable, that you are harming yourself and the baby. They will lock you up in a psychiatric facility and I will raise your child. And there is nothing you can do about it. If you are shocked by what you just heard, if you want to know how I survived this nightmare and turned the tables on the people who were supposed to love me, please hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and drop a comment below, telling me what you would have done in my situation. Your support means everything, and it helps me share stories that need to be heard. Now let me take you back to the beginning to show you how I ended up in this gilded cage. 6 months earlier, I had made what I thought was a compassionate decision. My mother Brenda called me at work, her voice trembling with what sounded like genuine distress. She told me that she had lost her apartment, that the landlord was evicting her for unpaid rent, and that she had nowhere to go. My brother Kyle, she said, was also struggling between jobs and facing eviction himself. As her only daughter, as someone who had managed to build a successful career in IT at a major banking firm, I felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. I had a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb outside the city, a place I had bought with my own money after years of saving. It was my sanctuary, my escape from the toxic dynamics of my childhood. But that phone call from my mother awakened something in me that I thought I had buried, that desperate need for her approval, that fantasy that maybe this time things would be different. Maybe if I helped her, she would finally see me as a good daughter. Maybe we could finally have the relationship I had always dreamed of. I should have remembered the warning signs from my childhood. I should have remembered how she always played the victim in front of others while treating me like a servant behind closed doors. I should have remembered how every dollar I earned from my teenage jobs somehow ended up in her hands, how she convinced me it was my duty to help family. I should have remembered how she pitted me against my brother, praising him for his smallest accomplishments, while dismissing my achievements as lucky breaks or not good enough. But I was pregnant, hormonal, and that ancient wound of wanting my mother's love was bleeding fresh again. So I said yes. I told myself it would just be temporary, a few months until they got back on their feet. I told myself I was strong enough now to set boundaries. I told myself I was doing the right thing. They moved in on a rainy Saturday in October. Brenda arrived with 3 suitcases and a collection of expensive wine bottles that she claimed were gifts she could not bear to leave behind. Kyle showed up with even less, just a duffel bag and a backpack, his hands shaking slightly, in a way that should have alarmed me more than it did. That first night, I cooked dinner for all of us, trying to create some semblance of family warmth. My mother complimented the meal, but suggested I should have used fresh herbs instead of dried ones. Kyle barely looked up from his phone, shoveling food into his mouth without a single thank you. The first few weeks were tolerable, or at least I convinced myself they were. I was busy at work managing a critical software integration project for the bank. My pregnancy was progressing well, and I was excited about becoming a mother. I had started setting up the nursery, painting it a soft yellow, assembling the crib I had carefully researched and purchased. When I came home tired from work, I would sometimes find Brenda had cooked dinner, though she always made sure to mention how exhausting it was, how she had to do everything because I was never home. Then the small violations began. I noticed charges on my credit card that I had not made. When I confronted my mother, she looked hurt and confused, saying she thought I would not mind that she needed a few things from the grocery store and her card had been declined. She promised to pay me back. She never did. I found that my favourite foods would disappear from the refrigerator. Kyle would eat entire meals I had meal prepped for my work week, leaving me nothing. When I mentioned it, he shrugged and said I could just order takeout, that I made enough money anyway. My mother started having her friends over women who would drink wine in my living room and speak loudly late into the night. I would lie in bed exhausted from work and pregnancy, listening to their laughter and gossip, unable to sleep. When I asked Brenda to keep it down, she accused me of being selfish, of not wanting her to have any joy in her life. She cried, actual tears streaming down her face, and told me I had become cold and heartless since I had gotten successful. I discovered that Kyle was not looking for work at all. He slept until noon, then spent his afternoons and evenings in the guest room with the door locked. Strange people started showing up at my house at odd hours, people who made me uncomfortable, who would sit in cars outside waiting for Kyle to come out. When I confronted him, he became aggressive, getting in my face and telling me to mind my own business. My mother defended him, saying he was going through a difficult time, that I had no idea what it was like to struggle. But I did know what it was like to struggle. I had worked my way through college, taking out loans, working 2 jobs while maintaining a high GPA. I had started at the bank as a junior analyst and worked my way up through merit and long hours. I had scrimped and saved for years to afford my house, my car, my life. I had done all of this without any help from my family, and in fact, I had often sent money to my mother over the years when she claimed to be in crisis. As my pregnancy progressed into the 8th month, things escalated. I came home one day to find that my mother had gone through my office, looking through my financial documents. She claimed she was just tidying up, but I found my bank statements laid out on the desk, my retirement account information circled in pen. That night, she brought up the idea of me adding her name to my accounts just in case something happened to me during childbirth. She made it sound reasonable, maternal even, but every instinct in my body screamed danger. I started changing my passwords, enabling 2-factor authentication on everything. I moved important documents to a safe deposit box at the bank. I could feel the situation spiraling, could sense something dark brewing beneath the surface of daily life. My mother started drinking more heavily expensive wines purchased on my credit card that she never asked permission to use. Kyle became more erratic, his mood swings violent and unpredictable. I would hear them talking in low voices, late at night, conversations that stopped abruptly when I appeared. 3 weeks before that terrible night, I overheard a phone conversation Kyle was having in the backyard. He was pacing, agitated, his voice rising with panic. He owed money, a lot of money, to people who did not accept excuses or delays. Loan sharks, the kind of people who broke bones as interest payments. He needed $50,000 within the month, or he was going to disappear one way or another. I felt sick listening to him, but a small, terrible part of me wondered if he thought I was the solution to his problem. I consulted with a lawyer, a shark of an attorney named Miller, who had handled some legal work for the bank. I explained my situation without going into too much detail, framing it as a hypothetical about financial elder abuse and adult children living in one's home. He gave me advice that chilled me to the bone. He told me to document everything to keep evidence to prepare for the worst. He said people do terrible things when they are desperate, and from what I was describing, these people sounded very desperate indeed. That was when I started taking precautions. I installed hidden cameras in my home, small devices that fed to a cloud server that only I could access. I bought a burner phone and hid it in the air vent in my bedroom along with an old laptop. I made copies of all my important documents and sent them to Miller's office. I felt paranoid. Doing all of this felt like I was betraying my own family, but deep down, I knew I was protecting myself and my unborn child. The night it all came to a head started like many others had recently, with tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. I came home from work exhausted. my ankles swollen, my back aching. I just wanted to eat something light, take a bath, and go to bed. Instead, I found the dining table, set formally candles lit, and my mother sitting there with a fresh bottle of wine already half empty. Kyle sat across from her, his leg bouncing nervously, his fingers drumming on the table. In front of my usual seat sat a stack of papers. I knew immediately that something was wrong. Every alarm bell in my body was ringing. I stood in the doorway, my hand unconsciously moving to my belly, and asked what was going on. My mother smiled, that saccharine sweet smile she used when she wanted something, and gestured for me to sit down. She poured herself another generous glass of wine, the dark red liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. "Rachel, sweetheart, we need to talk about your future, about the baby's future," she began, her voice dripping with false concern. "You are going to give birth soon, and what if something happens? What if there are complications? We need to make sure everything is taken care of, that all your affairs are in order." I sat down slowly, my eyes on the papers. I could see the words "power of attorney" across the top of the first page. I felt my heart start to race. A power of attorney would give them complete control over my finances, my property, everything. They could sell my house, drain my retirement accounts, empty my savings. They could make medical decisions for me. They could take my baby. "I do not need this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have already made arrangements. I have a will, I have designated beneficiaries, everything is handled." My mother's face hardened for just a moment before the mask slipped back into place. "But, honey, I am your mother. I should be the one to handle things if something happens to you. It is only natural. Besides, you have been so stressed lately, so forgetful. We have all noticed. The pregnancy brain is real dear." Kyle leaned forward, and that was when I saw the knife. It was a folding knife, the kind with a wicked-looking blade, and he was playing with it, flicking it open and closed, open and closed. "Just sign the papers, Rachel. Stop being difficult. Mum is right, it is the smart thing to do." I felt anger rising in me, hot and fierce, cutting through the fear. "No, I am not signing anything, and I want you both to leave my house tomorrow. I will give you money for first month's rent somewhere else, but you cannot stay here anymore." That was when I made my mistake. I told them I had changed all my passwords, that they could not access my accounts anymore. I thought it would make them back down, would make them realize I was serious. Instead, it lit the fuse on a bomb that had been waiting to explode. My mother's face transformed into something ugly, something I had seen glimpses of throughout my childhood, but never in its full, terrifying glory. She stood up so fast her chair fell backwards, grabbed her wine glass and hurled the contents directly into my face. The wine burned my eyes, filled my nose and mouth. I gasped, shocked, trying to wipe it away. "You ungrateful little bitch," she hissed, her voice nothing like the sweet maternal tone from moments before. "After everything I have done for you, after I carried you for 9 months, after I sacrificed my life to raise you, this is how you treat me." I tried to stand, tried to get away, but Kyle was faster. He moved around the table like a predator, his face twisted with rage and desperation. He grabbed my arm, yanking me back down into the chair so hard I cried out in pain. "You are going to sign those papers." He growled, his face inches from mine, his breath reeking of something chemical and wrong. "I need that money. Do you understand me? I need it, or I am dead. And if I am going down, I am taking you with me." I tried to pull away, tried to reason with him, but he was beyond reason. He pulled back his fist, and before I could react, he punched me hard in the stomach. The pain was immediate and catastrophic, like being hit by a car, like being ripped apart from the inside. I screamed or tried to, but no sound came out. I doubled over, falling from the chair to the floor, my hands clutching my belly, terror racing through every cell of my body. "Please, God," I prayed, "please let my baby be okay. Please, do not let them kill my baby." Kyle grabbed a chair and wedged it under the dining room door handle, blocking my escape. My mother stood over me looking down, with a mixture of contempt and calculation. The mask was completely gone now. This was who she really was, who she had always been underneath the performances and manipulations. "You think you are so smart," she said, her words slightly slurred from the wine. "You think you can just cut us off, throw us away like garbage." Let me tell you something about this country, about how things really work. I can call 911 right now and tell them you are having a psychotic break, that you are dangerous to yourself and your baby. They will believe me. I am your mother, a concerned parent, trying to protect her mentally ill daughter. They will take you away in an ambulance pump, you full of drugs, and while you are locked up in some psychiatric ward, I will get emergency guardianship of your baby. The courts love grandparents. They always choose family. Kyle kicked me his boot, connecting with my ribs, and I curled into a tighter ball, trying to protect my stomach, trying to breathe through the pain. He bent down and grabbed my phone from my pocket, the one I had been trying to reach. He held it up in front of my face, then smashed it against the floor over and over until it was nothing but broken pieces of glass and metal. "No one is coming to save you," he said. "No one even knows we are here. Your neighbours are half a mile away. You could scream all night and no one would hear you." They dragged me to my bedroom, my mother gripping one arm while Kyle took the other. I was crying, begging them to stop to think about what they were doing, but they were not listening. They threw me onto my bed, and Kyle pulled a hammer and nails from his jacket pocket. I watched in horror as he nailed my bedroom window shut, the old wooden frames splintering under the blows. My mother stood in the doorway, watching with cold eyes. "You will stay here tonight and think about your choices," she said. "Tomorrow morning, you will sign those papers. If you do not, things will get much worse for you. And, Rachel, if something happens to you, if you have a tragic accident, your life insurance policy pays out $1 million to your beneficiaries. We checked. And right now, according to your old will, that is me. So really, it does not matter if you sign or not. Either way, we get what we need." They left, locking the door from the outside. I heard them go downstairs, heard their muffled voices, discussing me like I was a problem to be solved rather than a human being, rather than someone they were supposed to love. I lay on my bed, my body aching, my mind reeling with shock and fear. I put my hands on my belly and felt movement. Thank God, felt my baby shifting and kicking. Tears of relief streamed down my face. My child was alive. We were both still alive. But for how long? That was when something shifted inside me. The fear was still there, but underneath it, a cold fury began to build. These people had taken so much from me over the years. My childhood, my money, my peace of mind, my sense of safety. And now, they were threatening my child, the most precious thing in my world. They thought I was trapped, thought I was helpless, thought I was still that little girl who would do anything for their approval. They were wrong. I waited until I heard them go to bed, listened to the house settle into silence. Then I moved carefully to the air vent in my bedroom. I used a butter knife I had hidden in my nightstand to unscrew the cover, reaching inside until my fingers closed around the burner phone and the old laptop I had stashed there weeks ago. My hands were shaking as I powered them on, but my mind was crystal clear. I logged into the smart home system I had installed, the cameras they did not know existed. I pulled up the footage from tonight, watching the nightmare replay on the small screen. There it was, all of it. My mother throwing the wine in my face. Kyle punching me, kicking me. Their threats about the psychiatric facility, about the life insurance, about making it look like an accident. I downloaded everything to the cloud, then started uploading it to multiple secure locations. I sent copies to Lawyer Miller with a detailed email explaining what had happened. I set up a dead man switch on my email, a program that would automatically send the evidence to the police if I did not check in every 12 hours. Then I accessed the live camera feeds. I could see my mother and Kyle downstairs in the kitchen talking in low, urgent voices. I turned up the volume on my laptop, listening through the hidden microphone in the smoke detector. What I heard made my blood run cold. My mother was laughing a harsh, brittle sound. If she signs, we drain the accounts and disappear before she can do anything about it. If she does not sign, well, pregnant women fall downstairs all the time. Tragic accidents happen. The important thing is that the baby survives. Newborns are expensive on the black market, but her life insurance will be enough for us to disappear and start over. Kyle can pay off his debts, and I can finally live the life I deserve. Kyle was pacing, anxious. What if someone asks questions? What if they investigate? Who is going to ask questions? She has no close friends, no father in the picture, no other family. It will just be a sad story, a young woman who died tragically, the grieving mother raising her grandchild. People will feel sorry for me. They always do. I recorded every word. I saved every second. And then I started to formulate a plan. The next morning, I heard them unlock my door. My mother came in carrying a bowl of oatmeal, her face arranged in a mask of concern. She had done her makeup, put on her best outfit, playing the role of the caring mother again. "Rachel, honey, I brought you breakfast," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You must be hungry. You need to keep your strength up for the baby." I looked at the oatmeal and wondered if it was drugged. I wondered if they planned to sedate me, make me more compliant, but I had my own plan now, so I played along. "Mum," I said, my voice weak and broken. "I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I was being selfish. You are right. You are my mother. You should have access to everything. I will sign the papers. But can you do something for me?" "No, it's fine." She tried to hide her triumph, but I could see it in her eyes. "Of course, darling. What do you need? Can you call a lawyer to witness the signing? The bank will need it to be notarized to make sure everything is legal and binding. Otherwise, they will not process it." It was exactly what her greedy heart wanted to hear. A legal, binding document that would give her complete control. She practically ran out of the room to make the call. I could hear her on the phone arranging for some shady lawyer she knew to come to the house that afternoon. I spent the rest of the morning preparing. I used the laptop to set up a live stream, connecting it to my social media accounts, but keeping it unlisted for now. I positioned the laptop on my closet shelf with the camera facing out, making sure it had a clear view of my room and the door. I pinned a tiny camera disguised as a button to my shirt. I charged the burner phone fully and put it in my bra. I reviewed my evidence one more time, making sure everything was backed up in multiple locations. Then I waited. They came for me at 2 p.m. Kyle unlocked my door and roughly pulled me to my feet. My mother was in the dining room, the same room where this nightmare had started less than 24 hours ago. The table was set formally again, and a man in a cheap suit sat there with a notary stamp and a briefcase. I sat down in the same chair I had been in the night before. The papers were in front of me, multiple documents that would give them complete power of attorney, access to all my accounts, control of my property, medical power of attorney, everything. Kyle stood behind me, and I knew without looking that he had that knife in his pocket ready to use if I made the wrong move. My mother sat across from me, her eyes glittering with anticipation. "This is the right thing to do, Rachel. For everyone. For your baby's future." The lawyer handed me a pen. My hand was shaking as I took it. I could feel Kyle tense behind me, ready to react if I tried anything. I brought the pen to the paper, touched the tip to the line where my signature should go, and then I wrote in clear capital letters, "Help, live streaming." For a moment, nobody moved. They were all staring at the words, trying to process what they meant. Then I pressed a button on my phone in my bra, activating the pre-programmed sequence I had set up that morning. The television in the living room, visible through the open doorway, suddenly blazed to life. On the screen, a live stream was playing, my face right now at this table. And in the corner, a viewer count that was rapidly climbing. 100 viewers, 500, 1,000. The stream was being pushed to my social media, being shared, going viral in real time. My mother's face went white. Kyle lunged toward me, but I was ready. I pulled the pepper spray from my other pocket, the one I had retrieved from my purse that morning, while they thought I was being compliant, and I sprayed it directly into his face. He screamed a high-pitched shriek of pain, stumbling backwards and crashing into the glass china cabinet. It shattered spectacularly, shards raining down around him. My mother tried to grab the papers, tried to destroy the evidence, but I swept my arm across the table, sending them flying. I stood up, and for the first time in my life, I looked my mother directly in the eyes without fear. "It is over," I said. "Everything you said last night, everything you planned, it is all recorded, it is all saved. And right now, thousands of people are watching this live stream. The police are already on their way. Lawyer Miller called them the moment I activated the stream." The sound of sirens in the distance confirmed my words. My mother's face cycled through emotions rapidly. Shock, denial, rage, and finally that calculated victim expression she was so good at. She started crying, fake tears streaming down her face. "Rachel, baby, what are you talking about? We were just trying to help you. You have been so unstable, so paranoid. Everyone watching my daughter is sick, she needs help." But the television was still on, and someone had found the clip I had uploaded earlier that morning. The screen split, showing the live stream on one side and on the other the footage from last night. My mother throwing wine in my face. Kyle punching me in my pregnant belly. Their conversation about killing me for insurance money. The sirens grew louder, car doors slammed outside, heavy footsteps on the porch. The front door exploded inward, splintering off its hinges as the police breached it. Armed officers poured into my house, weapons drawn, shouting commands. "Get on the ground, hands where I can see them, now." Kyle was still on the floor, crying and clawing at his eyes, surrounded by broken glass. He did not resist when they cuffed him. The shady lawyer was already on his stomach, hands behind his head, babbling about how he did not know what was going on. He was just here to notarize documents. My mother was still trying to play the victim, still trying to manipulate, telling the officers that I was mentally ill, that I had attacked them, that she was just trying to protect me. But Officer Davis, a veteran cop who apparently had his own history with my mother's manipulations years ago in a different context, cut her off. "Save it, Brenda. We have been watching the live stream. We have seen the evidence. You have the right to remain silent, and I strongly suggest you use it." Lawyer Miller arrived moments later, stepping through the broken doorway, in his expensive suit, looking completely calm and collected. He walked straight to me, positioned himself between me and my family, and addressed the officers. "I am Rachel's attorney. My client has documented evidence of false imprisonment assault of a pregnant woman, conspiracy to commit fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder for financial gain. All evidence has been preserved and uploaded to secure servers. The live stream you witnessed was activated as a safety measure when my client felt her life was in immediate danger." He turned to my mother and brother, his voice turning to ice. "You are both under arrest, and I will personally make sure you never see the outside of a prison cell again." They dragged my mother out in handcuffs, still protesting, still playing the victim, even as the evidence played on repeat on every phone and laptop of the officers and neighbours who had gathered outside. Kyle went quietly broken and defeated, his face swollen from the pepper spray, knowing that his debt problems were the least of his worries now. An ambulance had arrived, and paramedics insisted on checking me and the baby. They hooked me up to a fetal monitor right there in my destroyed dining room, and the strong, steady heartbeat of my child filled the space where so much ugliness had just occurred. The paramedic smiled at me. "Your baby is fine," she said. "Strong heartbeat, good movement. You did good, Mama. You protected your baby." I started crying, then not tears of fear or pain, but relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. The following weeks were a whirlwind. The video went viral, truly viral, millions of views across multiple platforms. My story was picked up by news outlets, becoming a national conversation about family abuse, financial exploitation, and the strength it takes to stand up to toxic family members. I received thousands of messages of support stories from other people who had experienced similar situations, who had found the courage to set boundaries or escape abuse. The legal case was straightforward given the evidence. My mother and Kyle were denied bail, deemed too dangerous and too much of a flight risk. The prosecutor charged them with a laundry list of crimes: kidnapping assault with intent to cause serious injury assault of a pregnant woman, conspiracy to commit murder, attempted fraud, and several others. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning with guilty verdicts on all counts. The judge, a stern woman who had watched the entire video, evidence showed no mercy during sentencing. The actions of the defendants represent a betrayal of the most fundamental bonds of human trust, she said. A mother and brother who plotted not only to steal from their own family member, but to potentially end her life for financial gain. The aggravating factor that the victim was 8 months pregnant makes these crimes particularly heinous. This court has no sympathy for those who prey upon their own families. Brenda received 20 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. Kyle received 15 years plus additional time for the drug charges and weapons violations they discovered during the investigation. I was told by the prosecutor that Kyle had additional problems in prison when word got out what he was in for. Apparently, even criminals have standards about who deserves protection and who does not. My daughter was born 6 weeks after that terrible night in a quiet hospital room with the lawyer Miller's wife serving as my birth coach. She was perfect, 7 pounds 8 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and lungs that could wake the dead. I named her Hope because that was what she represented to me. Hope for a better future, hope for a life free from toxicity, hope that the cycle of abuse ended with me. The court ordered the sale of my mother's possessions to help pay for my legal fees and damages. The house I had bought was truly mine again, but I decided to sell it. Too many bad memories. I bought a luxury penthouse apartment downtown, high-security dorm in the works. I wanted to feel safe, and I wanted Hope to grow up in a place with no shadows of the past. The life insurance money my mother had been so focused on, I changed the beneficiary to a trust for Hope, managed by Miller's law firm. My retirement accounts were intact. My savings were intact. And the settlement from the insurance company that had covered my mother's rental history and fraudulent activities added substantially to my financial security. 6 months after that nightmare, I sat in my new apartment floor-to-ceiling window showing a glittering cityscape, holding my daughter as she slept peacefully in my arms. The television was on low, showing a news update about the case. The anchor mentioned that my mother had tried to give an interview from prison, still attempting to play the victim, but no legitimate news outlet would give her a platform. My phone buzzed with a notification from my bank. The final asset recovery from the court case had just been deposited. $850,000 from the forced sale of various properties and items my mother had accumulated over the years through various frauds and manipulations, all of which was now rightfully mine as restitution. I smiled, kissed Hope's forehead, and turned off the television. We did not need to watch that anymore. We did not need to give them any more of our time or energy. I opened my laptop and typed out a post for social media, wanting to update all the people who had supported me through this journey. To everyone who has followed my story, thank you. Thank you for the support, the messages, the shared experiences. What I learned through this nightmare is that you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Family is supposed to be a source of love and support, not a weapon used to manipulate and control you. It is okay to set boundaries. It is okay to walk away. It is okay to choose yourself and your children over people who would harm you, even if those people are related to you by blood. Blood does not give anyone the right to abuse you. Hope and I are safe now. We are thriving. We are building a life filled with actual love, not the twisted imitation I grew up thinking was normal. And if my story helps even one person find the courage to escape their own toxic situation, then everything I went through was worth it. I posted it, closed the laptop, and looked around my beautiful home. Sunlight streamed through the windows. My daughter slept peacefully. My bank account was secure. My future was my own. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between family loyalty and your own well-being? What would you have done in my position? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it gave you something to think about, or maybe even the courage to make a change in your own life, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we are stronger than we think, and that we deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter who is on the other side of that equation. Your engagement helps these important stories reach more people who need to hear them. Thank you for being here, and remember, you are worth fighting for.